So at one of our last parties, they were calling me Oprah because you get an orgasm and you get an orgasm and everybody gets an orgasm.
From the Scandinavian forests up north to the sandy dunes of the Gerlach Empire, one origin story, one burner at the time. This is Burner Profiles. In this episode, we are flying all the way to Canada to visit Kristina. She made her dream come true by building a BDSM spa retreat for couples.
Okay, so welcome to Burner Profiles. We're here with
Kristina, aka Oprah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about Oprah.
So I'm part of a community and I've helped facilitate, and in this group it's women exploring BDSM in a safe and controlled environment. And I'm sort of known in the groups for bringing all kinds of tools and machines and all kinds of fun things. And so at one of our last parties, they were calling me Oprah because you get an orgasm and you get an orgasm and everybody gets an orgasm. So that's where Oprah started.
Such a good name.
Yeah.
And I can really feel like the Oprah-ness from just like, we met each other like just a couple of months ago.
Yeah. And
just coming here and taking a part of everything here. It really, really resonates with your whole being. So that's perfect. We're here now in Canada, Nova Scotia. Mm-hmm. And where exactly are we?
We are in Harbourville, which is on the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia, about an hour and a half from Halifax, in a quaint little, I guess, village that you would call it. I had our childhood cabin here growing up, and I always knew it was a place that I'd want to come back to, and I never dreamed I'd build here, but I couldn't have chose a better place for that. So yeah, back home.
And this place, what do you call
this is Coastal Clarity, the world's first discomfort spa.
So that's a
discomfort spa.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I think so much of our journeys, in these spaces, whether it's at Burning Man or whether it's here or at a Kit Kat Club, it's about stepping into our discomfort. And with doing that, we have a tremendous amount of growth that happens. And I think that if we don't experience discomfort, we don't experience growth. So I really wanted to create a place where people could step into that discomfort in a safe place, and from that get to grow and learn more about themselves and about their partners and about their relationships and dynamics, and really have some opportunity to have some life-changing moments. Yeah.
And with that discomfort, if you go into specifics?
Yeah, a variety of different ways.
Yeah.
So obviously there's discomfort in the dungeon, whether it's through S&M, whether it's maybe seeing something that you've never seen before, or exploring something you've never seen before, using a machine you've never used before. Maybe it's being watched for the first time, or maybe it's watching someone for the first time. So there's kind of a varying level of discomfort throughout that space, because for a lot of people it's new. And then there's little bits of discomfort here and there, whether it's a cold plunge or hot in the sauna, or all those things as well. So little bits of discomfort around the space. So we just did a couples B&B weekend. So we had 3 couples come. A few stayed here. One stayed at the family cottage. We ran complimentary workshops on S&M and sex magic, and lots of healing and lots of play. And we offered tasting menus and had some different guest facilitators come in. Happy from Sweden, and Nicole Hodges from Toronto, Nadia from Vancouver. So a few other facilitators from around the place, and couples just got to explore their relationships dynamics, and in a really beautiful way. And I don't think it could have gone any better. It felt like it ran so smoothly. The couples all really worked well together, and it was a really, really beautiful thing. And we learned a lot in our first one, and can't wait for so many more. And we're certainly going to open it up to kind of couples weekends. So couples will come for the weekend. They'll have kind of private and guided dungeon time, and then they'll have like a complimentary tasting menu and lots of time in the pool, hot tub, sauna, cold plunge set up as well, and walks to the beach and all kinds of decompression time as well.
Sure.
Yeah. The other part of discomfort that comes is this expansive piece of psychedelics. And so my long-term goal right now is I'm doing my advanced psychedelic therapist certification. And I've been doing psychedelic therapy training for about 1.5 years now after I completed my master's. And so the program that I'm involved in is part of the Government of Canada Special Access Program. And so in the completion of our certification, we get to do clinical trials, and both as a therapist and a participant. And my long-term goal is to start incorporating psychedelic therapy into my clinical work that I'm offering. Right now, I have a private practice in Port Williams, and long-term, I hope to start to be able to offer psychedelic therapy out of my home with a physician and another facilitator as well. So that's kind of where things are heading, and certainly with the way that things are changing in the psychedelic world and all of the research that's being done, we're seeing how beneficial it can be for so many people, and it's definitely something that I want to be offered, and I wanted to kind of get ahead of things here to make sure I had all the certifications and knowledge that I could to provide the best care for my patients when that time comes. So that's the long-term goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah.
Before you decided to actually do this, what did your life look like?
Right. I was living in Vancouver, and my partner and I had come to Nova Scotia. I guess it was maybe a couple of years ago at this time, and he had said, "Why don't we move to Nova Scotia?" And I guess I had never really thought about it. I loved living in Vancouver, and as much as I loved home, I never really considered leaving. But when the pandemic hit, it kind of shifted everything for a lot of people and changed my priorities. I missed my family and being close to home. And I was ready to be out of the city and living more of the lifestyle that I wanted. In Vancouver, I had a dungeon in my spare bedroom. So we would host like parties and like kind of smaller events at my space there. So I always had this dream that I wanted to create a bigger dungeon space. So we started kind of doing some plans and drafting, and the original plan was to just have like basically a dungeon in our bedroom. And then as we started building the house, we realized that there was this massive space under our home that actually my dad was like, maybe we turn this into your dungeon. It's, like 2,000 square feet instead of a closet. Yeah. And so it kind of went from being like, okay, here's another small dungeon to this like beautiful dungeon space. So then the original plan was we do like Airbnb, and like for those that want to access the dungeon space, it would be available. And then while we were in Berlin, when I met you, we were at Kit Kat Club, and Nicole and I were sitting there, and I just had this like breakthrough that I need to be doing, like maybe I need to shift where things are going. Like I'm going to start doing the psychedelic therapy. I'm going to start actually creating a space where, whether it's single people or couples or whoever, if groups of friends can come and can explore and have kind of all those components. And I think in other places that I've been, like Kit Kat, where you have this pool and the sauna, it's this like beautiful space where you can play and then have this like bit of decompression part. So then we thought, okay, let's add a spa to it just to really make it this new experience. So
literally just like a couple of hours before you met us, you decided on
just
that.
shifted the entire trajectory. Yeah.
And the interesting bit is that my girlfriend Emma, we were talking about specifically that idea just like the days before this. And then we meet these guys and we just started talking, and you're like, I'm going to open a BDSM spa. And Emma's like, what? What did you just jump into my head and just, how is that possible? And it was like that, it was so close in proximity to that, just meeting us.
Exactly.
So like both of your minds and my mind, everyone there was just
on
like
the same track. Yeah, Berlin does magic things like that, apparently. Yeah. Yeah, so I got home and I told my parents and I told my partner, and I think I didn't know what their reaction was going to be. I thought, part of me was like, what if they're like, no, you're crazy, we're not doing this. The support that I got from my family, from my friends, from even like people on social media that I'd never even met before was incredible. Community support here, not so much, but that will come. Yeah. And it's all part of it. And I think it really comes from a place of people's lack of understanding of what these spaces look like and how beautiful and safe they really are, and how this whole community is built on trust and respect and love and caring and providing to each other what feels right and what feels, so that will come. But so lots of support, and then it started. So we had already started building the home, and
was it planned out to be?
Yeah, so I had this idea what I wanted the house to be, and John and I kind of came together. My mom drafted up the plans for the house, and then John and my dad built the house. I helped as much as I could when I was not working the 4 jobs that I was working at the time. And then I got home from Berlin. I quit the corporate job that I was working for 10 years. And just very recently finished my other kind of public health job. So now I'm only private practice and working for myself, and then doing this full time now. So it's really exciting.
How much did the plans change for when you had this?
Not a lot, actually. I mean, we've kind of added little bits and little design elements. The house itself didn't change, other than how we were going to lay out the dungeon space. Even in our bedroom, this idea to have this little cage was my dad's idea. And I think over time we'll add little other elements. We want to have a shibari apparatus in our ceiling so that we can have people in suspension in the grand room and kind of do more performance pieces similar to what we did this weekend. We're kind of set up so that we can have, multiple people kind of sitting around in a circle with a performance in the middle. And so we would like to do more of that, and have some little hidden elements here and there that you can have hidden when you don't want them out, when your family is over, and then have them accessible for when your friends are here. So
talking about that, your both your dad and your mom is involved in some way.
Yeah.
How has that journey been?
It's been so beautiful. I feel so beyond grateful to have that support and to have parents that have never tried to change anything about me. They just, I've been this way always. So it's not a surprise to them that I'm opening a dungeon. I've always been overtly sexual and very able to communicate it without it feeling, this taboo thing that people shouldn't talk about. So it wasn't surprising to them. And I think, through it all, both of them have been keep going. We know what you're doing is right. We know how many people you can help doing this. And their support is more than I ever could have imagined in a million years. So it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did they have a shift where they went from okay, this is something that Kristina does and something that we're not a part of, and going into hey, let's put the dungeon here?
Yeah, I think I don't know really what shifted for them. I think as soon as I talked about what my idea was, they just started formulating all these ideas of okay, this is how we make it work. And they're very they're kind of problem solvers, but they're also very creative. And so my dad and mom have, like, you've seen the cabin, they have all of these like beautiful hidden, you know, treasures everywhere. And so, you know, they really wanted to do the same here. And so really anywhere that they could find a little creative outlet for me to do that here. So yeah, I don't know if like when the shift happened, just really as soon as I mentioned I wanted to do it, it was like, okay, we're changing a couple of things and we're making it happen. So yeah.
That's super beautiful.
Yeah.
How did you find your way to your first burn, and what was your first burn?
I mean, I had seen photos and heard stories of Burning Man through my friends for many, many years.
And when was this? If we like
when was my first burn?
Yeah, so if we roll back, like set the setting.
I would say I probably started like seeing photos maybe like 10 years ago or more, maybe a little more, something like that. And I think maybe it didn't feel like the right time to go before. I certainly didn't know like how challenging it was to go to. You know, like I had been to tons and tons of events and festivals before, and you know, most of them are you drive up and you're there and you bring all your things and it's 3 days and you're out. And so I think I didn't really understand like how intense Burning Man is. And one of my friends, Andrea, that lives in Vancouver, she was part of this group Chasing Sunrise, where we did like hiking trips, and you drive to Mexico for tacos, all kinds of little trips. And so I'd met her on a whitewater river rafting trip. And she had talked about really wanting to go. She had been before and wanted to go again. And I had heard kind of stories from her about it, and she was part of a camp called the Grilled Cheese Experiment. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. We'll go. So I started attending their meetings, and
what year was this?
2019 was my first year. And I started attending their meetings, tried to put together some costumes before I actually understood, like, you know, how creative people actually were. I think I did an okay job for my first burn, but my first burn was magic. Yeah, like the weather was beautiful. The entire experience was, yeah, I mean, it's trying to explain Burning Man to anyone is impossible, as we all know. But I feel like the group that I went with, you know, I'm still obviously friends with all of them. They're the most incredible group of people. And so, yeah, we got there, and yeah, just pure magic right out of the start. It, you know, you arrive there and I arrived by myself with my suitcases, and I don't even remember all the stuff that I had, and tried to like figure out, okay, how do I get to 345 and D, whatever that means. And, you know, you're trying to like navigate this massive space with all this craziness happening, but how quickly you settle in and you become, you know, you feel like this is my home now. And I think just because of the environment itself, it's so natural. So that was my first burn. And then last year, we went back after the pandemic, and definitely a tougher burn for everybody that was there. Yeah, the dust storms were intense. It was my partner's first burn. Like, we had a magical time, but it was definitely a very, very different burn. And you know, the saying, like, you always get the burn you need. I think there was so much that comes from the discomfort of that too, right? And I think that, you know, you had to learn patience, and that you can't always get all the things that you want, and you can't always see all the things you want. And yeah, it kind of teaches you to slow down a little bit, and to explore, and to be, you know, playful, and yeah.
So if we go back to like the first experience,
yeah,
what would you say was your like biggest like aha moment, where you feel like you shifted from like, this is something interesting to this is something that's actually, it's like, this is not a festival. When did you kind of like get the burn?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of funny, actually. I would say there was like two moments. One was the first night we all went out as a camp, and that was our first night. And we were all walking, and I saw this I saw this man on a lifeguard stand, like that you would sit on if you're a lifeguard, but it was on a remote control. So he was driving around on this lifeguard chair. And every time he would like hit a rock, you would think that he was gonna bail, and like our entire camp was just like dying laughing. It was like the most comical thing. And it was so absurd, but it felt like, yeah, of course this would be here. Like, but of course it would be. It just felt so normal. And I think it was one of those times that you're like, oh, it's this place where my weirdness is just the norm. You're not even like separated from it, because everyone is weird, which is so wonderful. And I think you just feel like a kid all over again. And I think that so much of this, like the real world that we live in, is just, it's this go, fast pace, tippy tappy, on your computer, and you just kind of get lost in it, and that playfulness just disappears. And so it felt like, okay, we get to be a kid again. And I think the second moment, maybe one of the last nights we were out, actually there's three parts. So the second one was, there was this light show where you were lying on your back, and there were probably maybe a couple hundred bulbs, and the light would flow through the bulbs, but also down into the bulbs, like based on the music, kind of hard to explain. And I remember seeing people laying there and just thinking they were like, okay, everyone's just laying down, having a little rest. They're like, no, you need to lay down, you need to see it. And it was like one of the most incredible things that I had ever seen. And yeah, I think like in that moment, I was like, okay, it gives me like even more reason to like, need to be more creative, and there's so many things that you can do and explore and learn and create, and I think there was a lot of creativity that came from me through that piece. And then the third one was on burn night. I lost all my friends, and of course when you lose your friends, you don't find them again, or maybe not that night, but eventually. Yeah, so I was like in the middle of the burn by myself, and there was a random ladder. So I climbed up this ladder and watched the burn from the top of this ladder, like basically like above everyone. And I still have this video. It was one of the only nights I actually even took my phone out with me, where it kind of felt like I was like above everything and looking down on it. And it was such an incredible experience. And I come down from the ladder, and my friends are like, I found them. Like I don't know if they saw me or whatever, but I ended up finding them, and they were like, okay, you need to come with us. So we all get on our bicycles and we ride out into Deep Playa. And at the time there was no one out there yet. And I mean, not compared to what there normally is. And were setting up. So they had, their camp was the Womp Wagon. So, like a big art car that plays sets on it. And their camp was doing a sunrise set. And I didn't really know I'd been watching like sunrise sets the whole time, but not really understanding like what it actually meant. So we're on the Womp Wagon out in Deep Playa. And Ryan, one of my friends, turns to me and he was like, turn around. And I turned around, and it was like 40,000 people on bicycles riding out towards us. So you just see all of these lights. And I just, I still can't even describe that moment. It makes me want to cry even thinking about it, because it was like this, holy fuck, this is insane. Like, this is absolute madness to be like in the space, and all these people are coming here. And it was being on that and like being part of that music and being part of that, like it's this thing that's so ingrained in me. I will never forget that experience. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is home. This feels so good. These people are so incredible. This space is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was like the highlight of probably any burn I'll ever have. But yeah, that was probably my biggest moment for sure.
I'm getting chills just hearing about that.
It's funny because some of the people in my camp had obviously come out to watch the sunrise set, and they were like, of course, her first burn, and she's on this, like, you know, and they were like, that will probably never happen again, right? This one in a, like, the burn, if you don't take an opportunity when it's there, it will likely never happen again, right? And so it was one of those times where you just learn, like, take every opportunity when it comes, because you might not have it again. Yeah, something I'll never forget, for sure.
I can definitely connect to the moment where you kind of feel like you're lost in some sense, and that you lose everything you hold close, and kind of like let yourself be held by the burn, and just like go from moment to moment where it's not planned. We're not going to this specific place, and you let the burn lead you, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at that sunrise.
Exactly.
That's when it actually feels magical.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, instead of it being this agenda that you're following.
Because it's very easy to fall into that, especially Burning Man. I would say, because
there's so many things going on, and you don't want to be missing things, but at the same point, just walking around and following a blinking light over there or a unicorn over there, it's all about that, like the journey, and not about having this detailed agenda that you're following. So
that's such a beautiful story. So, and going back to this first burn, what would you say was the most unexpected, most challenging part of that burn?
I think for me, knowing that Graham, my ex-husband, wasn't with me, I really think it would have been something really beautiful for us to have shared together. And really the reality was I only had one ticket, so there wasn't the option for him to go. And I think maybe timing of vacation or whatever it was. But I think with the burn, it's, you know, it was a beautiful thing to experience on my own, but it's so beautiful to experience with a partner, and to have those like shared moments of like, do you remember when we saw this, or when we experienced this thing together? And there were definitely a lot of moments in the burn where I was alone, and that was beautiful because I met so many incredible people that I still feel so close to, and Ryan, one of my friends that I met actually at Coachella when I was, I don't know, it was in like 2010 or something like that, who kind of saved me a little bit at Coachella. He was there. So there were people that I knew and that felt really like safe and like home to me. But I think the most difficult thing was feeling disconnected from my husband and not being able to share the experience with him, and not being able to reach him to be like, I wish you were here, or like, you know, send a message or make a phone call or that. I think that was really the most challenging. My first burn didn't really have a lot of like the challenges that we faced in the next one, for sure. Yeah, I think it was just so beautiful that it didn't really feel like there was a lot of actual challenges itself, just more maybe, having wished or a yearning for having him there, I think. Yeah.
I can also, I have a feeling that if you go alone, you will also be like enveloped, and that there's a possibility for you to go deeper because you don't have that like
tie.
And the cushion for things, so you have to like, and everyone is, if it's this feeling of like everyone's so connected, why am I so disconnected?
And I think it does, you know, when you're by yourself, you do what you want when you want it, you sleep when you want, you eat when you want, you see a bright light and you follow it. When you're with a bunch of people, it completely changes that. And so, you're having to reprioritize your needs and your wants and your desires. You have to make more sacrifices the more people that you're with. And I don't think I would have had the experiences that I did. I don't really think. I know I wouldn't have had the experiences that I did or met the people that I did had I gone with a partner the first time, because you would have had this like comfort bubble of, it's the same as when you go to a party with your partner. There's this tendency to still stay with your partner the entire time and not spend too much time talking to new people. And like when I met you in Berlin, my partner wasn't there, and it was okay. I can just like talk to people and create all these new relationships and not feel guilty for talking too much or for taking up too much time or space or whatever it is. And I noticed when, the difference between my first burn and the last burn, my current partner and I would have very different burn styles. I don't do overly well in the heat, so I'm definitely more of a nighttime burner. And I love the lights and I love the sunrise sets, and to me that's the best part of the burn. And so if it was up to me, I would just stay up all night and I would sleep during the day, and that's what I would do every single night. But John definitely cannot tolerate that. And so we had a few of those nights, but not as many as I would have liked. So there were sacrifices made, right? Yeah, I think they both have their pros and cons, but yeah.
Yeah, and I would say like my experience of like meeting people that are new to the burn, one of the things that I would definitely recommend is like go out by yourself and let yourself be taken by the flow of the burn.
Exactly.
Because I would say that's one of the magics that even you don't even have to go with a partner. It could be that you're like hogging on to your camp too much, or your friends that you went with too much.
Yeah.
It feels like a part of the burner experience is that you actually found your way into the burn like by yourself, or there's a longing and a need inside you that actually wants to go to the burn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think in the last burn, it was interesting. One of the guys that we were with, my friend's partner, he was like, so what's the plan? Like, what do we do next? And, very like agenda oriented. And I think some people are just so focused on that they totally miss the fact that you don't need a plan. And in fact, you're better off to not have one, because if you just let it flow and let it envelope you, like you say, right? Your experience, you end up seeing things that you never would have imagined, had you planned an entire... And I feel like this idea of being like stuck to an agenda when you're in this space that shouldn't be on an agenda. It's nice to have like, there to be certain timed events, for people that want a very specific experience. And certainly there were times in both burns where, I wanted to go to a dungeon, or I wanted to go to like Dr. Bronner's soap thing or whatever. Like there's a few times where you pull out your agenda and you're like, I'd really like to have a shower right now. And it's very convenient to have. But I think if you don't allow that flow to happen, it just feels like you're at work and that you're just checking off, okay, this time slot, I'm doing this thing, and this time slot, I'm doing that thing. So yeah, I think it's really important to let it flow for sure.
Yeah, I have like a specific memory from my last Burning Man where I would hear like sunrise sets from like Taiko, like from previous burns, and then see like on the plan, like the schedule, like he's gonna play then and there, and then we like made our way there, and it was just so much people there.
Yeah.
Like too much people, because it's like a chill ambient vibe, and it's not like it's super nice if you just happen to like wake up in an art car and then he's playing, then that's really cool. But like going all the way there, like losing your bike and so much, it didn't work out.
No.
And it really felt like it was just because we fall through that plan.
Yeah.
Probably just like going to another sunrise set, which was just like something random, which wasn't that popular would have been a nicer experience.
Yeah.
So there's all like these traps of planning too much.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you haven't planned enough, that could like...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it just like going planlessly, especially during nighttime. I feel like there's like this tendency of just like, go look at this thing. And then look at this thing. And like nothing is really like catching you. Yeah. You're just like jumping to the next.
Yeah, you're trying to find something, but you don't even know what you're trying to find. And then you never find it.
No.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, we just like went around and we didn't really see anything out of...
Yeah.
So there's like pros and cons with both.
Yes.
It's probably just about knowing when you like catch that wave.
Totally.
And just follow, because there is a certain flow to it.
Yeah.
And you kind of...
Yeah. Yeah, and you also learn that if you see something, the reality is you will likely not see it again unless it's something, massive. So, taking that opportunity to see it then, because, the likelihood of next night you being able to go out and see it again or whatever. We waited for probably about an hour and a half last year to do Sonic Sphere. And... we were out there and I remember John being like waiting an hour and a half in line to do this thing. And then you get into it and you're like, I would have waited a day for this, like some experiences. And sometimes the best experiences are worth the wait. Right. And generally there's a wait time because it is so special and, and because so many people want to see it. So yeah.
It's about that balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
When did you know that you were like a burner?
I don't really think I knew I was a burner my first burn. Like it certainly felt like this is home. I felt the sense of home from the moment I rolled in the dust when I got there. But I don't really think like I felt like a burner until my second burn. When I knew what to expect, I knew how to better prepare. I put more effort into like my costumes because I remember, the first burn I would see so many people and be like, oh, I want that to be me. I want to put like, I love to create and to make costumes and to be different. And so to have that like artist outlet to do something different, it kind of made me put a lot more effort. And we had this group chat going, not with people in my camp, but with some of the girls from the garden. And we were, sharing our costume creations back and forth. And it felt like, okay, now it feels right. And I think for me, when we arrived and I was getting to see the burn through John's eyes, like I was able to, help him kind of navigate his first burn. It made me feel like, more of a burner. Like, let me show you home. Let me show you how magical this place is. Like, I guess it's probably like a parent seeing a thing through a kid's eyes for the first time. Like watching someone see Burning Man for the first time is like the most magical thing ever. And I think like that's when it really like solidified. Okay, this place is, I'm a burner, and there will be many more burns to come, and many more costumes, and many more adventures, and many more dust storms and rainstorms and everything else that nature has to throw. And I'd say that was probably it.
And we also talked about you guys coming over to the Scandinavian burn.
Yeah, that's an absolute must. We've done regional burns in Canada. We did another one this year. As soon as you started talking about it, I'd kind of heard a little bit about it, not to the depth that I now know. And I feel like now, because I know so many people in that space and like so many of your friends, and which I now call my friends, I feel like it would just be this beautiful, it obviously sounds like this beautiful landscape and beautiful people and fun times. It's definitely high on my bucket list, whether it's next year or the year after, but we will absolutely be there.
We're waiting for you.
Yeah.
So what happened in the Scandinavian burner community is that we bought 99 hectares of land that's like partially like in the middle of Stockholm, Gothenburg and Malmö. And I think we're the first burner community in the world to actually do that. So it's such an amazing opportunity to be a part of something that even more feels like our space, our home, and to share that with a bunch of people from your own country and the countries around Scandinavia, and even as far as like Israel. There's a bunch of Israelis coming to Borderland every year, and they freaking love it. So I think it's so cool also that Burning Man has also spread this culture in a way where people around the world is taking this to heart and expanding on the concept, where I feel like Borderland in many senses have deepened what is going on at Burning Man. It has taken that idea and the concepts there and tried to make it even more community driven, and it's driven of it's based on teal, which is very interesting that anyone can make any decision. So in some ways I kind of try to sometimes I pinch myself and like, how is this even possible? How could you run something without like having a CEO that decides everything? How could anyone make a decision and just like being trusted by the community that it's the right one, and so on and so on? But it's cool when you have the right process that it's able to happen, and you're able to have a proper burn in that sense. Obviously it's not as big as Burning Man, it's around 3,000, but it's growing fast. And the hype in Sweden and in Scandinavia, and even it reached as far as Canada, hearing about it, it's kind of interesting in that sense. So.
I feel like, when you meet a burner, and it was the same as when we met, I knew, like, I think we both knew, like, okay, we're both burners, so we'll be friends. And it's so funny because it's just this instant connection that you feel with people when you meet them. It's this shared life experience that I don't even know if you can relate anything else to that similar type of shared experience, right? Similar values, similar experiences, these principles that we have in Burning Man that trickle into our everyday lives and just become part of who we are and how we live our lives, right? And it's so beautiful, and
because you take it with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe that's one of the most interesting parts. It's that because you've lived it for then a week and practiced it, and some of the principles are different from the social norms that we have, it's kind of like you need to have like this brain exercise of rethinking how you think. And then when you go back, you start noticing all these like unhealthy habits that is around you. For me, it has been a lot of with like work environment, coming back to a normal workplace, and things are a certain way. And then it's based on like a monetary system. It's like, if I pay you, you do this. And that's it. But if you're then at the burn, where you're like, because some people think it's a barter system, but it's only gifting, and anything you do needs to come from a place of you want to do it.
Exactly.
So that changes the whole thing. It's like, okay, this needs to be done. It's like, can you do it? It's like, I don't want to. So I can say no. And just that. So how do you get stuff done?
Exactly.
Only on voluntary basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it teaches you how to say yes and how to say no, which is something that I think so many people struggle with. And I think in that space, you need to know your limits, you need to know your desires, or else you're kind of just flowing with everyone else's burn and not making it about your own journey, right? And I think the same applies in our lives, where so much of the time we're kind of like flowing and doing things that, whether it's what other people want us to do or what we feel other people expect us to do, instead of what's really best for ourselves. And I think taking all of those like elements of the principles and continuing to practice them in our everyday lives, it obviously changes the world, and it makes it this like better, more beautiful place where it's about helping one another and being responsible for your own actions and your own responsibilities, and not feeling like other people have to always do things for you, or it shifts your whole mindset for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said with like taking responsibility for your own experience, and that's also one of the principles, the radical self-reliance. And I just love the way that that the borderland community has taken that to heart, and even the organization of the actual burn is built that way. It's like, so you want toilets, then you have to make sure there are toilets there.
Right.
And if there's not toilets there, we can't even do the burn.
Right.
So if you have some sort of complaint, it's always up to you to fix it.
Exactly.
And it's interesting to see the whole community enforce that, where maybe there's an angry post in the group where it's like, there's not enough this or there's not enough that. And then the answers are like,
then make it happen.
Yeah, it was more like lovely that we would love to see you bring this to the burn. We're longing for you to bring this to the burn. Thank you for making this effort into the future. Yeah. So also like not being all like, yeah, you bring it yourself, also being like trying to...
Here's an opportunity to bring something that others will also benefit from. Yeah. You know, it's so different than even like the gift giving. Like, it's this thing that you're doing that is for other people and making other people's experience better. Yeah. And it's not all about your experience. It's about what are you doing to create a better environment for everyone else there too? And what are you contributing? Like, Burning Man is all about contribution. So, you know, if you see something that is lacking or missing, how can you fix that? How can you add something or build something or bring something that will make it a better experience the next time around?
How do you feel that the burner community is affecting and maybe will affect the future of like our common, like most, I think the burns is biggest in the Western hemisphere. So like, how do you think it will affect Western society?
I wish everyone could have one experience at Burning Man. I think because of how much we know it shifts your perspective and how you choose to live your life, I think it's an experience that everyone should get to have at some point. But I think because so many people are attending different years or even, you know, regional burns, all of these aspects of these elements of the burn does trickle into our everyday life, and it trickles into our workplaces and into our communities and into our friendships and our connections, and it creates these stronger, loving, caring, compassionate environments that are built on trust and safety and respect and love. And I think obviously the world needs so much more of that. And so, yeah, the more that we can bring that to everyday life, the better the world is going to be. And you know, there's a lot of really bad things going on in the world right now, but there's lots of things that we can do to make it a better place, and bringing elements of Burning Man into our everyday life will help with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really feel connected to the things, to the fact that you're reminded of that you're the creator of your own reality. Because at the burn, it's such a big part of the experience that because I'm responsible, I'm also the creator.
Right.
And what I'm bringing here will have an impact. And I also remember that my impact on this will affect the people around me. So, and I think that's an important lesson for you to bring back when you go back into the default world, to remind yourself that this is actually possible when I come home as well. Yeah. Like, a good friend of mine always says that everything is made up. And at the burn, it's really, really clear, but it's also true.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the like the default world is that, or when I refer to the default world, it's the world when it's not a burn.
Yeah.
The regular world. The Muggle world. That's even more.
Yeah.
So, just a reminder that you can create things and beautiful places for people to get inspired, to create communities, to remember that there's systems that have been created, but they have been created. Yeah. Someone made them up. Yeah. And we can make up new, better things.
Exactly.
And I think also just to remind like yourself and people around you that that's actually our responsibility.
Yeah.
we can't forget that it's our responsibility to build this new world. If we want a better world, it's our job to build it, and it's our job to find new ways, and it's our job to keep ourselves inspired.
Absolutely. Or else everything stays stagnant and nothing changes.
Yeah.
And that would be a very boring life.
Yeah. But probably that's a part of where we are right now, is that so many of us have forgot that we're able to create things.
Yep.
It's like you become passive, and you just, I think that the uninspired, unpassioned, because you're maybe stuck at a situation where you're not very comfortable.
Yeah.
You're at a job where you don't love what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you don't have a choice, but I think even if you're in those spaces, or you're working in a job that you don't like, or you're doing something that you're not enjoying, I think you still have to create, and you still have to do things that, make you feel alive again. It's so important to the human experience to feel like, you're not just working, and that you're also having that element to play, and without it, life would not be very exciting, right? So yeah, I think it's all about creating new ideas, and kind of like this pink burn idea.
You stuck on that. Yeah, you'll see that in the future.
You'll see that in the future.
I can't wait to come.
I think we're on to something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in the ruts of just like, you go to your job, and then you come home, and then you feel like quasi shit about everything, and then it's the weekend, and you just want to forget about your stupid job, so you go out and just blow out your brain, and then you're like half alive when Monday comes, and then you get through the week, and then it just becomes this loop of like meaninglessness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And 1 week of that turns into 1 year of that, which turns into a decade of that. And if you don't break that cycle, then you have an entire life where that's what you're doing. And you can break that cycle.
Yeah, definitely break the cycle, and maybe you're not even aware that it is a cycle.
Absolutely.
I guess that's and that's where a lot of people, like, you see pictures of people going to Burning Man, you think you're going to go there to take some nice Instagram photos, and then you end up like having
2 feet in mud. And,
yeah. And then all the media news out there, it's just Burning Man, it's crazy. It's like, that's the reason
that's why they go.
Yeah, that's why they go. They're there to get stuck in mud.
Exactly.
That's the point.
That's the point. And
like,
if it was just a festival where everything was, perfect, it wouldn't challenge you, and it wouldn't change you, and it wouldn't make you a better person. It's every little challenge that comes with Burning Man is what makes it. And I think because it is, I don't want to say inaccessible, but because of the amount of effort that's required to get there, the people that are there like want to be there, and it took a lot for them to get there. For the most part, there's always, there's always people that pay to be there in other capacities, but I think that, like true burners are there, whether it's rain, whether it's whatever the universe throws at them, it's part of it, and it's just, that's what's expected, and you prepare for basically everything, and sometimes you can do all the preparation and you still aren't prepared. And that's part of it as well, right? Learning how to be more resilient in those spaces. And that's a learning experience in itself. So, yeah.
The discomfort.
Leaning into the discomfort.
What principle do you feel like you connect with the most?
I feel like I always say, and I probably still will, the radical self-reliance, because I've always felt this deep need to be self-reliant. I'm very independent. I don't like to rely on other people. In fact, I very much struggle to ever ask for help, or basically to ask for help. Learning that you have to learn how in life to problem solve, and things are not always going to be perfect, and how you react to those situations and how you navigate them, it makes you a better person, and it helps you in every aspect of your life, really. And at the burn, you have to be self-reliant because everybody's there experiences the same thing, and they're also experiencing their own levels of struggles and frustrations, and I feel like I didn't understand what that really meant until one night we were out and I needed to pee so badly. And I remember saying to Andrea, because I was like, I don't know where the porta potty is, and I was like, I'm just going to ask someone. And she just looked at me and laughed. And I didn't know why she was laughing until I asked the person, and like, they had no idea where the bathroom was. The reality is pretty much no one knows where the bathroom was. You know, it's a mission to ever find one. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I can't rely on anyone. I need to figure this out on my own, and no one is going to be able to help me here. And I think those moments in life where you recognize, like, you're not always going to have someone that's there to help you, and you have to figure it out on your own. And it's a really important lesson to learn. And yeah, it makes you a better person. It makes you, better in community, better in spaces. It helps you be a better host, a better partner, a better daughter, whatever kind of community or space you're in. You're just a better person when you're taking care of yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, then you can't take care of other people. So yeah, being self-reliant is essential. And I think, yeah, it's something that everyone needs to learn at times, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Thank you for this time. You've been listening to Burner Profiles, an interview podcast about the Nordic Burning Man community. We really hope you liked the episode. Like and subscribe if you do.